Well, Carson Wentz trying to get the Eagles back into first place in the NFC East. And, Dan, we talked a lot about this at the top of the show from the Cowboys' perspective, but just sloppy from the Eagles from the get-go.
Especially at the start of a football game. You had a drive going right at midfield, and then the turnover leads to an opportunity for Dallas, and they capitalize on third down with a good play design to Tavon Austin. Early touchdown for them quick.
And then the very next possession for the Eagles, again, in a game with absolutely everything on the line, Wentz is back to Marcus Lawrence gets him.
And this is the story last night. The Cowboys made some plays, and the Eagles, especially early on, gave it away. Another turnover. It's not the fact that you get the turnover, it's what you do with it. Touchdown Dallas.
And more from Carson Wentz here. Fourth quarter, they're down 20 points. What can they do? He can't handle the snap. Cowboys are loving it and having a good time, and that would also set up another touchdown. Dak Prescott this time taking it in himself. So the Eagles, 4 turnovers on the night. Cowboys scoring on 3 of them, and that's a huge storyline in this game as the Cowboys wind up winning it by a score of 37-10. And so, again, if you were just joining us, we opened the show this morning talking about the Cowboys side of this. Rex, let's talk about the Eagles side of this and give you a chance to say again, Doug Peterson began the week by sort of guaranteeing a win, and then he sort of seemed to reel that back in. What did you think?
Well, that really bothered me, Greeny, because first off, okay, I get it. You're feeling good about it, and he was all pumped up, man. Like maybe he had but he sat in there, and it's like he's confident. Great. It sends a great message through your locker room. As soon as you try to back off on it, that sends a horrible message to your locker room. And to me, the great thing is Dallas, you motivated them. That was part of it. When you come out there, you motivated them. But you also sit back and told your team that, you know what, maybe I really don't believe. So to me, horrendous. You can't handle it any worse. You should have doubled down and said, yeah, we're going to beat the heck out of them. And right now, what he had to do in this press conference, sit back and say, you know what? I was wrong, but we're going to beat the hell out of them next time we play them. And that's the way you ought to do it if you believe it. If not, then don't say anything. Stay in your little shell.
I think the reason why you didn't believe it is because what Lane Johnson alluded to after the game. Yeah. People were late to meetings, late to practice. They said this was a wake-up call. I think Doug Peterson said, I'm guaranteeing we're going to win this game. And then he got a chance to watch his team be careless, be reckless, be unprofessional. He saw that secondary in practice maybe get bombed on a couple of times. He was like, I take back everything I just said. Yeah. You can't blame them, especially with the way they looked. But I think if you make a statement like that, you got to stick by it. But also, if you're in the NFL, you got to be a professional. Showing up late to meetings, showing up late to practice, that's all garbage, honestly. It's a right. No, it's a privilege, not a right to be in the NFL. You got to take advantage.
Pat, you guys know, I'm sorry, one thing that if you put everything you have into preparation, practice, all film study, everything. If you put everything you have into it, that doesn't guarantee you victory.
Nope.
But if you don't, it guarantees defeat. And if they're going to show up late to meetings and all that, I wish I would have known that. I would have, gone to Vegas or something, because to me, you got no chance. You got no chance of winning if that's happening.
Do you actually believe that Doug Peterson's guarantee affected the score 37-10? Like, if he keeps his mouth shut, then the Eagles somehow win, because they looked
I'm not saying
awful.
they somehow win, but I think it has a heck of a thing. You just saw the way DeMarcus Lawrence talked about it. Zeke, all that. You motivated that team, so I get all that. But you also, you took it back. How can you take it back?
I think it does have ramifications, and you kind of see it play out on the field at times. I would point to one specific play last night that kind of lends to that pullback of the guarantee and how it impacts your football team. And it's that play late in the game off the turnover to Aguilar. And listen, this is still a football game in this moment. That ball is thrown 98% perfect. That ball has to be laid out for by Nelson Aguilar. This is going to be the good angle. Watch where this football lands.
You got to go and get it, Greeny.
That is, what are you worried about yourself? Catch the football.
This to me is one of the more telling plays of that football game, that Aguilar would not extend and sell out for that play. That shows me that there's issues down there that we don't necessarily know of right now.
I agree with you. When I first saw it, I thought he lost it in the lights. It looked to me like he didn't realize where the ball was. I totally agree. We have a lot more on that game to get to, but obviously things are flying around. There was a hugely important game in the AFC South yesterday.
There certainly was a division game. We can't not talk about the Colts, right? With Pat McAfee sitting here. Hey, J.J. Watt showing some love here. Take a look at this, Dan. Let's talk about the officiating.
Listen,
this was big.
Yeah, it's an incredible play by Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. And I understand that everyone is mad and upset about it. But the reality is that's the game right now. This is the world we live in. If we want our quarterbacks to play for a long time, that play is going to get called dead.
What if he rips his leg off?
They would have to settle for a field goal there. Then Jacoby Brissett here, play action to Eric Ebron with the unbelievable catch. In fact, greatest catch you've ever seen, Pat McAfee.
I would argue it's top 25, much like Vinatieri said. But that is absolutely a work of art to get both feet down with the one-handed grab.
Don't ask Ebron. It's the best catch anyone's ever seen.
Colts take a 21-6 lead. The Texans, it's as if yesterday Deshaun Watson could just never get anything going, Dan.
We got to talk about this Colts defensive line a little bit. Their defense was really good back-to-back weeks, and it starts up front.
And then with one last chance, 39 seconds to go, he throws this one to Darius Leonard, who, by the way, is not actually a member of the Texans. The Colts win 30-23, take over first place in the AFC South. About that tweet, here it is. ESPN NFL reporter Mike Wells tweeted after the game that Adam Vinatieri to Eric Ebron said, "That was one of the top 25 catches I've seen." And Ebron responded, "That means a lot since you've been playing for like 85 years. Not pictured very much in this highlight was Jacoby Brissett, who was absolutely fantastic. And Coach, you seem to think that he's playing with moxie because of something that the organization did weeks ago.
Well, the thing that was so impressive, because we've talked about it, this organization's done so many right things. And when Luck left, what they did is sat back and said, you know what? No, we got our guy. We have our quarterback, and we're going to prove it to you by extending your contract. Gave him a huge contract. Well, this is what we're seeing right now. So this kid's coming back. He's not looking over his shoulder. All he knows, he's a quarterback for a heck of a football team, and he's playing his tail off right now. And to me, the message from that organization filtered through the entire locker room, and that's why this team's playing the way they are.
Chris Ballard made it very apparent that they weren't going to worry about Andrew Luck retiring. They paid Jacoby Brissett for a lot of reasons. Inside that locker room, Jacoby Brissett was revered as the leader of the locker room. Last year, they were 1-5. The person who called the players-only meeting wasn't the starting quarterback, Andrew Luck. It was Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett has been the vocal leader of that team for the last couple years, something that Andrew Luck was not great at. For as incredible as Andrew Luck was on a football field, off the field, he didn't have that commanding presence like Jacoby Brissett has. I've been saying it. I yelled into this exact camera a couple weeks ago that this Colts team has all the makings to win the Super Bowl. Incredible offensive line. Their defense is getting healthy and coming together. There was a lot of talk about Deshaun Watson by L not playing great. That's because that defense forced him to not play well. They have everything you could possibly need to win games, which is why it was so devastating to the Colts fans when Luck retired, because they knew Chris Ballard built something special, but Jacoby Brissett has done nothing but show up and show out. From the Wolfpack with Tom Brady, he has composure. He rarely makes mistakes, and that entire team has lifted themselves to the level of Quentin Nelson on that offensive line. I think this Colts team is going to go a long way. Best team in football, maybe in the history of the NFL right now.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Jacoby Brissett, and justifiably so, but what I've learned about the Colts in the past 2 weeks, and certainly yesterday's, their defensive line wants to be part of the conversation as well. You know, we rave about their offensive line, but that defensive line got more pressure on Deshaun Watson yesterday than he had in the previous 2 weeks. And that was a big story of this game, was this defensive line and sometimes those linebackers coming on some pressure packages and getting home on Watson and making him uncomfortable. It's not just a team built around Jacoby Brissett and an offensive line. And there's a big moment in this game where Jacoby Brissett fumbles a shotgun snap right around his own 10-yard line. And the defense goes right on the field and shuts down the quick change and forces a field goal by Houston. In that moment in the game, that's what won the football game, was when that fumbled snap happened and they forced the field goal.
Gonna win a Super Bowl. Mark it down.
At some point in the next 50 years.
Speaking of defenses making a statement, what a statement it would be if Greeny's Jets can take down the Patriots. Week 7 Monday Night Football matchup. It's going to be a good one in the AFC East tonight, 8 o'clock Monday Night Countdown, starting at 6 p.m. on ESPN and always on the ESPN app.
Meanwhile, let me run through a couple other things that happened yesterday. Lamar Jackson ran for 116 yards and a touchdown. Ravens, a big win in Seattle. Pat, what do you make of Lamar?
I love Lamar Jackson. There's not a lot of humans in the history of humans that can do what he can do. He said he hated running a couple weeks ago. I think he's recognized that his ability to run has made him one of the most explosive players on a football field anytime he steps on it.
We're going to get back to that game in about 15 minutes. Meanwhile, Rex, Jalen Ramsey said he played, quote, okay in his Rams debut yesterday after missing a month. How'd you think he played?
Yeah, I think he played a heck of a lot better than that. He gave up a completion. Hey, how about that? But I'm going to tell you, he forced a fumble. The guy's the man. And last year, I talked about one of the greatest trades in the history for the Bears when they got Khalil Mack.
Yes.
I'm saying the same thing here for the Rams.
Really?
You can't find corners. You lose games fastest in this league at quarterback and cornerback. They got one of the best corners in football for a couple picks that are going to end up being average players probably at best.
All right, finally, here's a guy not so average, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. Left Saturday's game with a high ankle sprain. He had a surgical procedure yesterday. Dan Orlovsky, how worried are we?
I'm really worried. An in-season surgery is a big deal. This is the same injury that Tua suffered last year. It's just the other leg. And November 9th, this team's going to play LSU, and you're not going to be able to score 10, 14, 17 points and beat LSU this year. Not only are you going to be able to play, will you be explosive enough to match point for point against that LSU offense?
And then finally, a little eye candy for you to wrap up the hour here. Niners and Skins and the pouring rain yesterday, and this final play was just sort of a perfect example of what was going on. Look at that!
So fun.
I mean,
What happens when you're 6-0?
How much fun does
What
that
happens
look
when
like?
you can play defense like that?
Take a look over there at our south wall, and for our audience, you'll see it on TV. Look at that!
Look at that football guy.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Try hard guy.
Mascot.
It looks like a moment out of Game of Thrones.
Really good
doesn't it?
exfoliator.
It is. It is. My lady and I have been putting that on our face nightly.
Yeah,
It's
mud
trying to make
masks.
me look younger. Not a bad play there in Washington. What a dominant performance by that defense of the Niners.
All right, with that, we say thank you to Pat McAfee for his regular weekly visit with us. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. We, meanwhile, have another wonderful hour coming your way on Get Up. As always, we are live from the Seaport District at Pier 17. We're brought to you by Chase.
He just left.
walking right off.
Hit that walk off like Altuve did.
Time to get up with How About Them Cowboys. Dallas delivers a primetime punch. Are they back and better than ever? We're talking about it. Ben, this guy definitely